Good evening. Welcome to day 5 of the Toronto International Film Festival. You ready for this? My name is Tom Powers. I'm the documentary programmer of the festival. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that tonight's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community. This film is eligible for the Grolsch People's Choice Award and the Grolsch People's Choice Documentary Award. You can vote online at tiff.net/vote. I want to thank MK2 Mile End, Sony Pictures Classics, and MK2 Films for providing us with this film. This is a very special one. You're the first audience in North America to see Maria by CALLAS. 6 years ago, the director, Tom Volf, who's a photographer from Paris, happened to be in New York City, was walking by the Metropolitan Opera and without any special experience in going to the opera, on a whim, bought a ticket, went in, and was totally overcome by the experience. So much so that he really started to investigate the opera more seriously. And he came across the career, of course, of Maria Callas, and became, maybe obsessed is not too strong a word. His obsession is our reward. He spent the last 5 years on her career. He's produced 2 books about her, with a third coming out this fall. And now this wonderful film that gives us such great insight both to her artistry and to her life. We're very happy to have him with us, visiting from Paris, France. Please welcome Tom Volf.
Thank you, everyone. Wow, what a privilege. Real privilege to be here. It's a very special night. It's the first time this film is going to be shown in America.
North America.
North America and America altogether. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for being part of this very special evening. I would really like to thank with all my heart the team of Sony Classics and MK2 for bringing this film to America. And would really like to thank very specially my producer, Emma, who has came all the way from Paris with me today and who produced this film. It's a journey of discovery and a journey of love. It's a story of love also, and a story about an amazing woman and an amazing artist. And it's been a true privilege to spend 5 years with her and to be able to bring her to you in all her truth and authenticity and her beauty. So I hope you enjoy this journey. Enjoy discovering Maria and Callas, and I'll be here with you afterwards for a Q&A. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for this beautiful piece of cinema.
Thank you.
I would love for you to start telling us, what was your process of researching and discovering this archive in the making of the film?
Well, I guess it's always a bit hard to start talking after the film because we are kind of on a thread. Well, it all started 5 years ago for me, a little more than 5 years now, actually. And the journey was in several parts, but the big part of the journey was about reaching out to Maria Callas's closest friends that were still alive. And it was a quest to find them everywhere in the world, basically. And so I went to meet them and explain the project, and was very lucky to have them on board almost right away. And everyone unanimously supported the idea and said that this is what she would have wanted. So it was like somehow being on a mission to accomplish this, and being helped by them was a tremendous help. And they contributed a lot. I mean, in every way, but also in the material itself. What you see on screen, a lot of the personal archives and the personal films and Super 8s and recordings, they actually come from her friends who kept them and preserved them, and also interestingly never have given access to anyone before. So I was very lucky and privileged to have them on board for that.
As I understood, it was believed that this very famous David Frost interview was lost. Can you talk specifically about how you found this beautiful piece?
Yeah, it was a discovery for myself, actually, because I had never heard about it, even some months being already in the research and in the work. And it actually aired only once in 1970, and it was not recorded, it was not preserved. So there was not even a trace of it, there wasn't even a picture of it. And one of her friends, I mean, he preserved it in the way that they did back in the day. So he actually filmed the television with his Super 8 camera, and he had a real tape recorder for the sound, because of course Super 8 cameras didn't have sound recording. So this is the way he preserved it, and I was very lucky to be entrusted this material and to discover this interview, which to me is so much more than an interview. It's so much of a confession. And actually, when I heard her say for the first time the words that she says in the beginning of the film, the duality between Maria and Callas, it was such a deep understanding to me. It was like a key to her whole understanding about herself, about her life, about her as a woman and her as an artist, and how she lived through that, and how she struggled and sacrificed all her life between the two. So it was a major discovery, and it took a lot of time and effort to bring it back to life, because it was it had not been preserved so well, of course, you know, and it's more than 50 years old now. So we had to restore the real tapes and this whole work of restoration to bring it back on the big screen.
Touching a little bit more on the restoration, one thing that really struck me when I first watched the film was the incredibly vivid colors in some of the interviews. Can you talk about how you made that happen?
Well, I was extremely surprised myself to discover so much footage in color, because we all have an idea of Callas in black and white. And I was really surprised and happily surprised to discover so many films originally filmed in color. I mean, these must have been some of the very first color films, I mean private films, because these were Super 8 and 16mm films. And yeah, I loved that. I have to say, it gave me a feeling of seeing her alive, because, you know, black and white is beautiful, but it also gives you a sort of distance. And here it's almost like she's there. She's, you know, it could have been filmed nowadays. So yeah.
It's incredible. We would love to hear some of your questions. I will repeat them so that everyone else can hear. Raise your hands up high. Yes, in the aisle. The question is, who narrates the film?
Mm-hmm. So the idea was not to have any narrator or any other interviews or any people speaking about her. That was something I decided very early on to avoid, to give space to this intimacy between her and the audience, and this immersion that the film kind of drives you in. So it's her voice from beginning to end, with the exception of the excerpts from her letters and her memoirs, that of course there was no way to have her voice saying those words. But these were still her words, and they were very meaningful, because to me, discovering her private correspondence and letters and memoirs was touching to the most intimate part of Maria. So it was very important that it be part of the film. And so there is an additional voice, and that is Joyce Di Donato, the American mezzo-soprano, who speaks the words of Maria. But they are 100% the words of Maria. And I like to think that at some point in the film, the two voices kind of blend, also because Joyce gave such a profound interpretation, and being an opera singer herself, I think she related a lot to what Callas was and spoke about. And so I like to think that in the end, it's only just one voice, it's Callas.
Yes, in the red. Well, after all of the research you've done, how would you define Callas's life?
You know what? Well, thank you first for what you said earlier. But what I like the most is that the film gives the opportunity to everyone to have their own definition, their own understanding of her. And this is something that is not usually done. Usually when you watch a documentary and you have an opinion, this one kind of gives you the freedom to have your own understanding. And I think I had a very personal journey getting to discover her. And I'd like to think that the movie offers for everyone to have a personal journey of discovery. Someone may already know her and want to listen more. Someone may be just discovering. Someone may not want to go further, and that's fine too. But the idea is still that the film does not impose an opinion. So to me, I can reply very easily. To me, I can summarize saying that who she was is defined by what she says in the beginning of the film and in this David Frost interview. And she says, there are two people in me. There is Maria and there is the Callas that I have to live up to. To me, this defines her completely. And then the understanding and the depth of it, I think it's really up to everyone to associate their own feelings and understanding.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very appreciated that in the film you gave the space for complete songs to be performed. Yeah. Can you talk about this decision and how you made it rather than just taking bits and pieces?
Yes, sure. I mean, thank you for the recognition, because it was a very bold choice, and it was not easy to support that choice throughout. And again, I really must give thanks to the producer of the film, Emma, who is here tonight, and who believed along with me in that choice, that we would rather put complete pieces of the arias from beginning to end, rather than a sort of melting pot of excerpts. And we could have used hundreds of excerpts to show the variety of her repertoire and the amount of things she sung and recorded. But instead of that, we chose to show the pieces completely, because there are several reasons for that. One of the reasons is, I think it's the best way to understand what her artistry was about, to see her evolve throughout one single piece, and the expressions and the emotions and her acting, all of that, when you see it evolving from the beginning to the end of just one piece, you see the whole character. You see why she was recognized as a great actress. And you don't really get to see that if it's just a short excerpt. The other reason is we chose pieces that were meaningful as a sort of subtext in the film, because the pieces she chose to sing were not a coincidence with what she was actually living in her own life, in her personal life. That is the link between Callas and Maria. And I think that's also why we chose to subtitle the pieces, because there is a whole subtext to it. And, it's not a coincidence that she never sang Carmen until the early 60s, when she actually was in the middle of her romance with Onassis, because that is how she felt, and she used all of that, her own feelings, you know, romantic woman, a little bit of a femme fatale. She used all that in the interpretation of a character. So these are all the things that led the choices of the pieces, and also they are very representative of her repertoire. So there is, of course, the bel canto pieces. There is a little bit of Verismo. There is a little bit of the French opera, and altogether, I think it's very representative of who she was as an artist.
Yes. How is the film Medea recognized?
The movie by Pasolini, it didn't have a lot of success, actually, and I think it contributed to her not carry on a career as an actress as probably she would have wanted. You know, her friend who is in the footage and who was on the set with her, she told me that Maria said the best shots were left in the editing room on the floor. So probably she wasn't in the end very happy with it. But I think what's important, maybe more than the movie, is her relationship with Pasolini, and that's also what I tried to highlight in the film, because it was a very special kind of friendship. And for once in her life, it was not about Callas, it was more about Maria. And I think she enjoyed that, and she liked that very much.
I'd love to ask you, I think you've made a lot of new fans in the room. Can you tell us what else you have planned for yourself after this film?
Well, I truly don't know yet, because to me the film exceeded all my expectations. I could have never imagined this even 3 years ago, and could have not imagined even a year and a half ago that the film, while I was in editing, in the 6 months in the editing room, that the film would reach over 40 countries. As it is this year. So this is all very unexpected and very beautiful, and I'm enjoying the journey. So I'm slowly reaching towards the end of the journey, bringing this film in the various countries where it's coming out, and then we'll see.
Well, you can help this film travel even further by voting for it at tiff.net/vote. We want everyone to see it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you.